They come across them and don't even realize it because of the way my sister was portrayed so wrongly by Michael. But they had to. This thing got so public that they had to portray her in this fashion because they wanted to kill her.
Remember what Bobby said. Terry wasn't dying. Terry was never brain dead. Terry wasn't hooked up to any kind of machines. All she needed was help swallowing. They put in a feeding tube to give her nourishment. They took it out. Bobby said she could have been part of our interview. She could be right here in this studio today. We could have brought her in a wheelchair. She could have gone out anywhere had he allowed it. This is very unusual. The world was never told her husband Michael would be able to inherit the money, the big jury award, if Terry died, and only if Terry were dead. And Bobby says all of a sudden, when he went through this big court hearing saying, I want to take care of my wife, I want to take care of my wife for the rest of her life, the big jury award hits the bank account and his behavior changes. And all of a sudden he remembers, oh yeah, Terry said she wouldn't want to live like this. Do you see a conflict of interest here? Were you ever told this at all? No, all of the time we were told, let this woman die. Only one problem, Terry wasn't dying. Terry would have lived a normal lifespan. This wasn't right. Michael got a judge to withdraw her feeding tube. So she was literally starved and dehydrated to death, a death she didn't need to go through. Her mom and dad wanted to take her home and take care of her. They would have done anything. They would have spent their own money. Michael could have the money. But Michael couldn't have the money as long as Terry was alive. Let's finish the interview now.
But I'm sure that they see people like my sister every day, out and about, because families take. I see people like
Washington Square. I mean, our own Lloyd Center, our own shopping center.
There are people like my sister. There's tens of thousands of them, and I'm sure people every day come across them and don't even realize it because of the way my sister was portrayed so wrongly by Michael. But they had to. This thing got so public that they had to portray her in this fashion because they wanted to kill her. They wanted to make her look like she was suffering, that she was unresponsive, that all these dehumanizing terms, to convince the American public and convince the courts that the proper thing to do and the right thing to do would be to kill her. And it worked.
And so they did. He got permission to withdraw the feeding tube, and basically you had to watch.
We watched as my sister's
for 14 days.
Almost 14 days.
And this was, you had to have felt at least the love of the people outside that hospice.
Oh.
The pictures, and I know, some people that were there, and I know it wasn't enough to save her life, but that has to be a memory you'll never forget of those wonderful people that.
Oh, it's still today. I mean, they're still there today.
They're still there today.
We still get emails and calls and the prayers that we receive. I can't tell you how inspiring and uplifting it is. And to hear the stories on how Terry has touched people's lives and changed their lives.
People knew it was wrong, and you said out there, I couldn't believe it, you had to go through 3 sets of armed guards so that you would not slip her some water.
Right. I mean,
give her some water.
There was 3 checkpoints that we had to get past before we could visit my sister while she was being killed. And the reason was they had to make sure that we weren't trying to bring her water.
I can't believe those people participated in such
Over 50
evil.
people were arrested during those 2 weeks because they tried to bring Terry water.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, over 50 people.
50 people tried to bring her water and suffered being arrested for it. God bless some people. All right.
Everything is flip-flop in our country. Everything is
yes.
backwards.
And I didn't get a chance to ask you this. Who had the power to save your sister? Did anybody?
I mean,
as far as a politician, as a judge, anybody who could have stepped in and stopped it.
Well, some believe that either or the governor or the president could have stopped this from happening if they wanted to exercise their power. But I've heard attorneys on both sides of that saying yes, they could have, no, they couldn't have, and I simply don't know how to answer that.
Not quite sure.
Not quite sure, but there are many people that believe. Many smart, brilliant attorneys believe that the governor could have taken Terry in protective custody to protect the life of a citizen of America.
Right.
Her life was in jeopardy, and that is the role of the governor of the state of Florida, the president of the United States, is to protect someone from being needlessly
Absolutely.
killed. But I've also heard from attorneys that said that
So there's some disagreement on
there seems to be
that.
some disagreement on that.
Do you think America was fooled?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, with the help of the mainstream media and just the not necessarily lying, in some cases patently lying, but omitting many of the facts of Terry's case, just not reporting them, and in some cases downright lying.
I can't believe that Bobby said 50 people were arrested for the crime of trying to give a dying woman water. 50 people were handcuffed and led to jail for trying to save Terry's life. There were armed guards at 3 checkpoints to make sure nobody in the family would try to sneak in life-saving water. Can you imagine this happening in America? Were you ever told of this horrible tragedy in The Real Truth? I want you to go to the website of this wonderful, brave family, terrysfight.org, Terris, terrysfight.org. Their story is on there, and more important, a link to how you can get resources to make sure this never, ever happens to you or someone you love. If you think it couldn't, it's already happening somewhere else in the United States. If you go to Janet Folger's website at f2a.org and click on current events, there is a link right now to 2 different girls fighting for their life right now because a judge ordered them killed. You think this couldn't happen again, it will. Now you may be wondering, what can I do? Well, remember Bobby said, have somebody speak for you, have a surrogate. The living wills and all advance directives, they are to promote death. I've got one right here, and I highlighted how they make them. This is from the State of Oregon website. I do not want is in capital letters. What do you think that's saying? I do not want tube feeding. I do not want my life saved. What do you think that is trying to get you to mark? This is serious. You must know how to protect yourself. Go to terrysfight.org and buy his book, A Life That Matters. This is the book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at any bookstore. This is written by the family with the true story, the story you were never told. Please don't let Terry die in vain. Please go to terrysfight.org, buy the book, A Life That Matters. Please get the facts before it's you in that bed next. Thank you so much for coming to the Woman to Woman Show.
My humanity found what's perfection is self, and when love always abounds, then I'll reach out for your help, saying I fall down, saying I fall down, saying I fall down, saying I fall down. In the sickness of my soul, where nobody knows, contained